How you doing, everybody? Chris Free and Bennett here with the VFS Storyteller Studio podcast. In the studio today, I've got an awesome working actor who just joined the IMDB Century Club. With 111 working actor credits to his name, I'm sitting here with the one and only Mr. Dan Payne. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for that intro.
Well, it's true. You are in the Century Club. How's that feel?
You know what? I'm proud. I feel like that's a big accomplishment, so I'm very proud.
We always take the angle of the show as we look at how the storytelling of the guests we have, of the industry, of the work you do, the craft, all of it, and in particular for today, your actual story and how you get there is interesting, and I wanted to share it with some people. You actually at one point were playing pro volleyball in Europe. This is true, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Pro volleyball in Europe. Did that volleyball player know then that he wanted to be an actor, or that you would be a working actor?
No, that volleyball player knew that he loved the performance demand of a audience-driven aspect of a doing. So I loved being in front of a crowd. I loved playing the sport that I was proficient enough at to get paid and have fun to do. I loved the sport. And the element of having an audience there and a demand of performance. I mean, I put it on myself already.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches put it on you because they've now paid you to do it.
Yeah.
But the reward for me was doing it well in front of an audience. And that was intoxicating. That's a euphoric state, to do well at something you love in front of an audience that gives you the reward of applause or whatever it is. I guess I'm saying I'm an attention whore, basically. But I just love that. So
Yeah.
When I retired,
It's not a surprise.
No, it wasn't a natural progression at all, but it was a progression of the same drive that I felt, that I enjoyed.
Were you any good at volleyball?
Yeah.
Like, were you good? You could say.
Yes.
Did you have like a killer serve?
No, I was left-handed and I could jump out of the gym. And 300 years ago when I played, those were assets that weren't bountiful.
Right.
Left-handers who could jump out of the gym weren't as...
It's an anomaly.
To an extent.
Or it's rare. It's rare.
It was rare.
And you then what has to happen for you to then go, okay, I'm not going to keep going pro volleyball? When do you make the leap to acting? What happened?
So just to go back to work ethic, I think sports taught me work ethic. I was in first, out last. I was in the gym first and I left last. And I worked the hardest because I wasn't the innately skilled guy who could just be... I played with a guy who would smoke a cigarette for warm-up, butt it out, and then go in there and crush. I wasn't that guy. I was like the warm-up, stretch for an hour, work on the skills that I wasn't as proficient at for longer. So my body quit out way earlier. So my
This was your backup plan.
No, I didn't have a back. I was too young. There's no backup plans.
From pro volleyball in Europe. Yeah. That's cool, though, because I think, obviously, you can't tell if you're watching this right now. And if you're listening, you definitely can't tell. Dan is significantly bigger than me. By a large margin. You're about, what is your height? You're 6'4"?
6'4" and a half.
6'4". Yeah.
I'm shrinking.
I'm 5'7" and a quarter. That quarter is very important to me.
Yeah.
That's the difference between me and Tom Cruise. It's true.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know why I used that.
I thought he was 5'5".
No, I think he's 5'7". But
camera adds 2 inches.
But you are built like an athlete. Health has always been a part of your regimen. You take fitness and all of that really seriously. And now anybody looking at your portfolio of work in the last 15 years, one of the things that I just absolutely geek out to, and I love that Dan Payne is my friend, because it's not a secret that I'm a comic book and video game kind of a nerd. I love that stuff. And Dan has played some of the all-time awesomest heroes and villains from comic books and video games. You've got, just to name a few, and you tell me what I'm missing. So if you're at home listening or watching, Dan Payne has been, in no particular order, you've been Obsidian in League of Legends of Tomorrow.
Yep.
You were in the movie Warcraft with Duncan Jones directed. You were one of the ogres or the orcs. Yeah.
The orc team.
I remember when you were Blue Beetle on Smallville. Yeah. That's when I knew I have to be friends with this guy. He's Blue Beetle, which I think is just so cool. One of the considered possibly the greatest comic book movie ever made, Watchmen. You are Dollar Bill.
Dollar Bill, yeah.
And, there's a real mythos to Dollar Bill that despite the fact he doesn't play in the beginning, there's the opening sequence and his relevance to that golden age of those heroes who are gone.
The Minutemen to the Watchmen.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's this really great scene in the beginning where you see Dollar Bill and you're there with all the actors on set, and then like a minute later you're dead. But you did it awesome. You did it amazing. You were. I'm so proud of the work you did, and I think you were so great on CW's The Flash. You were Shay Lambden, the King Shark.
That was pretty awesome.
That's an unbelievable role. Nightwing, right?
Yep, did Nightwing.
That's Dick Grayson. That's amazing.
Well, no,
you were Batman.
I was Batman in that version of
yeah,
Nightwing.
you were Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, dude. On Nightwing. So for people who don't know, to be clear, he was Batman on. But what that one didn't get picked up, did it?
No, it was a pilot effort.
But man, what a resurgence that character is having right now. Nightwing in particular, and Batman, what they're doing with Titans, and I love that you were there and get to put that on your wall of hero fame. Who else have we got? I'm missing. There's another one that's going to hit me in 2 seconds. We got Blue Beetle. We got Shay Lambden, we got King Shark, Batman, Dollar Bill. There was one other one. It'll come back to me. Cut that part out so it doesn't look like I don't know all the characters still.
Or me not knowing who I am.
Usually I have to tell you that it's an important character.
Right.
Like you'll do it. When you're playing these characters, what do you prefer as an actor? I guess I would assume you like just a paycheck, like all actors, but there must be a part where it must be fun for you to create some backstory for a character and build that character on your own or working with the director of that team. And then you're also handed characters like comic book ones that have decades. Beast. There we go. That's right.
Ding.
We were going to talk about Disney Descendants in a minute.
We'll get there.
I didn't forget about that. That's you are the Beast. Now, 3 seasons on Disney's The Descendants, one of the biggest shows on TV for that Disney brand. Good for you, Dan. We're going to come back to that one in a minute. Do you prefer a character that has sometimes decades of comic book or pop culture lore behind them, and do you adhere to that, or do you prefer a role where you can do a bit of the backstory creation for these different parts?
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I love that there's a template and a pre-existing concept for these characters, because it gives you the realm to work within. And now you're not going to be able to, you don't want to recreate the exact same thing. You don't want to mimic or imitate. You want to create something new. And that's where the director and the producers or writers will come in to help you bring to life the version that you're wanting to bring in for that story, to tell that story the way it's supposed to be told. I love that. Like Beast, for instance, if we can.
Yeah,
that was the biggest one for me where I was like, oh my.
And make sure we were talking the Beast from Disney,
Beast
not
Descendants.
X-Men.
No,
Yeah.
Beast, King Beast from Disney Descendants.
The guy who, like, in Beauty and the Beast, the Beast.
The Beast.
Yes.
Yeah. Post-curse, this guy.
Yeah, what he turns out the happy ending Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old man.
Yeah, maybe not use happy ending.
Happy ending.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, that's a classic, iconic Disney character. And when I got cast, I was intimidated by the fact that has stood the test of time for generations upon generations, and I'm now stepping in to try and bring that to life. I feel, without the assistance of Kenny Ortega and the Disney team to help me shape that for our world that we were creating, the Disney Descendants world of what that Beast would look like, I was fairly intimidated. But then when I talked to Kenny, he's like, no, this is our Beast for Disney Descendants, for our Disney world, to tell this story. And then that creative paradigm is that it's given to us to build and do what we want to do within it.
That's really interesting. You did an episode of Once Upon a Time. Am I getting the name of that show right? Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, I did. I played Evo in Once Upon a Time, but I also
it's called Once Upon a Time. I just want to make sure it wasn't. I'm getting.
I played
it right.
Evo. Yeah.
Let me take that back. I want to get that.
But just to let you know, I did do Once Upon a Time in Neverland, or what was the spin-off of it?
Yeah,
and
right.
I played
I want to just get that right.
But yes, I was fortunate to play in Once Upon a Time in Neverland, I think.
No, I wasn't referring to that one.
No, you're talking to Evo, the blind father of Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just called Once Upon a Time.
Yes.
I thought it was like Once Upon a Time in Fantasyland
There is one
or something.
They have it. They had a spin-off of it.
Okay.
That I also got to play in.
I was going to mention it was Lana Parrilla's directorial debut.
It was.
Is that the spin-off?
No, that's the main show.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
In the last, yeah.
Okay, let's go there. That's really interesting, Dan, and I know from that character, you're in the orbit of that world of Disney, that whole fantastical realm of fables and nursery stories and things like that. And you do an episode of a massively popular show, one of the biggest ones at the time, which is Once Upon a Time. And I remember you did that, and I think that was one of the show stars, Lana Parrilla's directorial debut.
It was, yeah.
Talk to me about what it's like to be directed by a pro, someone who's been doing it, like a professional director, if you will, and someone who might be fairly new or comes from the perspective of an actor transitioning to director. I'm curious about if you would knowingly tell a difference. If that does an actor on set know? And despite maybe their unfamiliarity, what was that experience like? Because she's a great actor. What was that like?
That's an awesome question. So for me, there's a few different types of directors. There's the actor's director, there's the technical director, and there's the director who's just there to get her done. You know.
Right.
And there's a few other variations within that. There's a big line there. But there's a language, a communication element to director and actor that is different. There's a different language for each of those directors. And I love the actor's director because when they come up and talk to me about the scene or what we just did, they're speaking my language, so I know exactly what they're hoping to get and where they want this scene to sort of shift from what I gave them as the start point.
Yeah.
And Lana the language was immediate. Like I could tell every nuance and every subtlety that she was hoping to bring to this scene, this character, these moments, because she spoke the language so beautifully that, you know, I mean, a bit her caliber was she's Socrates and I'm the student in the acting world, but we're filming in this for Once Upon a Time.
Right.
Not that there are directors who
That's
are
cool.
Extremely gifted and know the language well and are equally capable of getting you through that scene with the language that you need and the communication you need to get where they're hoping to go with your creative input. But Lana it was otherworldly, like it was enjoyable. I act because there's a euphoric state that I can get to when you fall into a scene so deeply that everything else around you disappears.
Do you think that's a really interesting insight, and I wonder this all the time. Would Marty Scorsese be a better director if he had once been an actor? Do you think? Like, I really do think actors are born. That's my personal opinion. I think there's just you could want and you could learn and you could study it and you could do it forever. But I think there's a certain type that's just born to do it. They do it a certain way, and you kind of know it when you see it on screen. But you don't always know it with a director. And I'm fascinated by that process of trying to get your vision to come to life with actors. Some of them very experienced, like you. Some of them it might be their first time on set. And what can you do to make that? They're all so different, right? Like, I don't imagine you've ever worked with. I hear from actors all the time. No two directors are alike. Is that true?
It is true. And I mean, I'd love to work with Martin Scorsese to find out.
Yeah.
If that was the case, if he was an actor, I'm sure that he has learned the language, and I'm sure that he's worked with the caliber of people who. Obviously, he has the capacity to get whatever knowledge he needs to make these stories epic. I think is the only word you can use.
Mm-hmm.
And every director is different. I don't think it's about a team. I think every director knows their strengths and their weaknesses. So they'll hire a DP who can come and talk to them about a scene that will help them understand how better to direct that scene because they work symbiotically to make a better product.
Yeah.
So every director will understand their strengths and weaknesses and hire a team around them to bring the best product forward.
Yeah.
If they have that capacity. I know that in the world today, often you don't get to choose as much as you'd maybe like.
Sure.
Because, I mean, I've had directors who are like, oh, I love you. You're going to be in every project I
What was Duncan Jones like? He was relatively new. He did Warcraft. Right before that, I think he'd had his directorial debut with the one with Sam Rockwell, the Moon one, which was cool. And that was his start. I think Warcraft right after. I think he got a big budget one right after that, or pretty close to it, I'm pretty sure. Well, how did you find him? What was he like to work with?
He was pretty zen. Like, he wore sweats and a kind of ratty shirt and just was very chill. And legendary being the financing and big boys behind that. I felt
And
like
it kills it in China. China just eats it up. They loved it.
didn't that
You could do 3 or 4 more movies just off the Chinese box office.
that was their profit margin? Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't as big, despite the brand and the game being like a sensation. The video game, it wasn't as big in North America box office. But China went mental for it.
Absolutely.
And he was Zen. I don't, I have to reference that if you didn't know this, Duncan Jones, the director, is David Bowie's son.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. That maybe is not surprising that he was Zen. I don't know. That's cool.
Well, I mean, you're at the helm of a $300 million project.
Yeah.
You've got Legendary, not breathing down your neck, but they're overlording, watching. Like there's
Hell yeah.
And you've got these big personalities and these huge names, and the CGI on that is so you have to map that in, and they're using new technology that was like they could see live. We were wearing the volume suits, the what do you call them? Why am I blanking?
The performance capture suits.
Yeah, the mocap suits.
Yeah.
So we're wearing our unitards with our dots all over us. Around. And they had technology where the director, Duncan, could see in the monitor as we were filming us as orcs. So he didn't see unitard gray mocap suits. He saw orcs. Roughed in, but still orcs. So he could get a vision of what he was going to see beforehand, which is amazing to me. So we're in this giant volume.
Yeah.
And the orcs were living on the monitor in real time.
And that's this is where it becomes.
I don't know if that makes me sound old with the technology, but that just
no, not at all. I think if anything, you're in a whole new paradigm of acting, and we've talked about this on a couple other interviews over the last few months with people who they're transitioning to this new world of acting where performance capture. Let's go there for a second. You've got a lot of really impressive stunt work in your background because you're a very physical actor, and I think that's a natural place for you.
And if I can throw it in there, I'm also very fortunate to have a great group of people give me that opportunity and credibility. Because stunts, that is a world that you don't want to go into half-assed.
Right.
You need to know what you're doing. And I had the good fortune of having extremely knowledgeable people walk me through that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's something that I didn't earn that as much as I earned it from my professionalism, my work ethic, and building those relationships with those guys where they trusted me because of my physicality to walk me through what others have spent years to get to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no,
I just don't want to discredit the fact.
No, and that's very humble.
And there should be an Oscar category.
There should be.
Stunts.
There should be, man. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that.
Anyway,
the world of performance capture, you've done. You've been playing in that space and video game performance capture and that whole world. I'm gonna have Dylan pull up a clip here while we're talking about it. And this was I had a chance to work with you in the Beyond Capture space, and you were working on a King Shark character, and I remember watching the way you really. I mean, as an actor, you have to not only visualize this animal or this creature, whatever you are actually becoming, but what I found so foreign, and you were in that space, I'd never really done any work with anyone in performance capture before. It seemed like a natural playground for you. You feel very comfortable there, and you're aware that you kind of look over and there's a monitor showing you what you look like in the mind's eye versus the room, the big room that you're in. That has got to be a really, that's a whole other discipline of acting, let alone a stage or a fourth wall or an audience. This is like how understanding that all 6'5" of you is really, a 10-foot giant creature, and how he or she has to look up and down. Where do you learn that skill? Is that just experience?
Yeah, I think experience is a huge aspect, but it also, the technology helps inform you. It's the orcs, we did movement classes for months prior to filming. Months of specifically learning how to be heavy, walk with as if you were a 500-pound orc.
Right.
So that it carried over. Then all of a sudden you add the visual effect, and what you're doing isn't quite there. So the new piece of the puzzle is, how do you make what you've learned in the movement class translate to the image, the visual image that is now going to be the final piece of the product on film. So the same way that when we were working together, which was great because it's collaborative, we talk about what we kind of want to do. We want to have a continuous motion of a swim. It's a shark. He can't stop moving.
Right.
So I know what Dan Payne physically will believe that to be outside of my body. But will that translate to the motion capture and the technology? Well, to be able to look over and go, Okay.
Right. Yeah. And I
I gotta-
remember, and I remember you studying and looking at with me how a fish and a shark moves. And I mean, that's a really, that's a whole genre of acting.
It's exactly. Well, can I just add too, prosthetic face
Yeah.
and creature and alien work? Absolutely a different, I mean, there are base things. It's, to go back to what I know, volleyball, there's beach volleyball and indoor volleyball. Yeah, you bump, set, and spike, serve on both.
Right.
But they are two different games. Same space, same court, same net, same height. Two different games. The same way that acting without prosthetics on your face and acting under a full alien or creature or whatever pasted to your face, yeah, there's intentions and objectives and all these acting skills and elements that exist, but it is two different worlds because one, being a human, there's a precedent. Everyone knows what a human, there's universal expressions of sadness and anger and whatnot, and you want to tap into those and tell a story from those places. But when you become an alien, there's no precedent.
No, and that's
you don't
pure
go to the manual of Alien.
Pure imagination. If anything, you've probably got a body of work of famous aliens that have come before you and ones no one's seen yet, and you've got to find out what does this audience or what does this character need?
And how does this alien
does it need
sell
E.T.
this
or does it need something we've never seen before?
To sell this story, to make this the most believable product that we can for what we're trying to do.
That's interesting. What's easier, auditioning for performance capture roles and character roles like that, or straight up, humanoid regular parts in film or television? Which is easier? From an audition prep.
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say it's easier to be humanoid.
Yeah?
Because you're tapping into universal truths that everyone can relate to if you're doing it right.
Right.
Sadness is a universal experience.
Yes.
And if you do it right, you're taking people to the core of that universal experience of sadness. So if I truly have a secret or whatever it is that gets me to that place of sadness, but I'm using a script writer's words,
yeah,
and my sadness is coming through those words, you're experiencing and feeling it. I'm doing my job well. It's a human thing. We all experience it. But if I'm meant to be a alien from a foreign world, my ability to do that has to come from full imagination and creation that taps into that in some way, but doesn't say this is human. It's
right.
So it's more fun to try and create an alien where I sell the story and the director who may have a vision or the producers and that have a vision behind it. They go,
there it is.
Because there's no, I don't think there's the whole dinner plate eyes when you touch into the sadness. There's more of a, oh, okay, well done. I feel that. When you're doing the human thing, there's like, I touch your heart or I pull on some string that you feel in your experience in your body. So that story is being told because I'm pulling the right string because I've done my homework and I've tapped that universal truth and I'm telling you this story and you're engaged because I've tapped it and you're on the ride with me. When I'm an alien, there's that's cool. Never thought of that.
Yeah, right.
You can't tell me you've never thought of sadness as a human. If you have, God, I want your life.
It's
right?
Exactly.
But you've never talked about an alien whose mission is to overlord you, but that you can think of Hitler as a, domineering D-bag.
Sure.
And then so I want to be this domineering D-bag who's coming to take over Earth. I'm just
sure. I'm with you.
Shotgun out the back door idea.
I know what you mean.
So I want to be, there's going to be, how do I intimidate? Well, I know what I would do. I'm huge, so I don't want to intimidate with screaming and yelling because I don't need to. I think it'd be scarier if I just quietly walk up and go, I'm going to remove your life.
Do you, are you, your size is ideal for so many of the parts you've obviously gotten. That's kind of a redundant statement.
And really not for the ones I
But
did.
yeah, totally. But you know what I mean. And what I'm saying is there is a certain point, like when I watch any of the stuff you've done, and I always do a lot of prep when we have a guest on the show, and I go back and I look at all the stuff for as much as I possibly can, and you definitely you're not an over actor. Like that's a compliment.
Thank you.
It's a compliment. I see even in some of the great ones, and no names, but I see moments of overacting. If anything, I feel like sometimes when I watch you, there is reminds me, David Cubitt's kind of like this too. There's like a restraint and a discipline. And are you doing that? Is that just kind of the way you do it? Or are you worried that with your size that it's like important to every high five and everything, like, Jesus, when we did like our bro hug, you have to like calm down on me, right? Like, how much of how much of physical space is important in how the characters you are projecting, or am I overthinking it and you don't? That's just something that you do as a professional.
I think it's more the last element of just something I do as a professional.
You're not consciously trying to.
No, I'm not ever. No, I never consciously think of my size. I never ever go, holy doodle, be aware of your size in this moment. I don't.
I have no data to back this up, but why are so many actors short?
I don't know.
That's true, right?
I feel like it is.
Yeah. I every time we watch, Kate and I were watching something the other night, and we looked up this guy on IMDb, and we're like, 5'5". I knew it. It's the guy. Oh, it's the guy, the Milo guy from This Is Us.
Right.
Yeah.
Ventriloquia.
But you would not know that until something happens. But like when you are lined up with other actors, you are clearly very tall.
And that's an element of casting where I will or won't get a job.
That's interesting.
I can't be a leading man to a 5-foot woman.
No, that won't work.
Because it looks like I'm going to eat her. Not.
That's right.
Like we're not,
Yeah.
It's just too much.
Talk to me about, let's talk about every actor's favorite subject.
Well, just before you jump to that, can I just say that the size thing and what restraint versus being conscious of my size?
Yeah.
My favorite compliment is you're very natural. When somebody says
yeah, I think that's what I meant, by the way, when I said you're not an overactor.
Well, that's what I was kind of trying to take as the compliment, because that's my favorite compliment. So I was like, I hope it's that.
You're very natural, Dan.
Well, thank you.
And I mean that. I do mean that. That's not a... we're not even going to take this out in post because I want people to know I do mean that. Please continue.
But the naturalness is, again, I'm going to go back to it. I teach an acting class, an audition class. And I want you to do your homework to the point where you're not conscious of self. You're now telling the story from the place that you're meant to be because you've done your homework. So you're no longer present. You're not listening to that little director voice. Because the director voice is the one who goes, hey, giant, don't do this because you're huge and it's going to look excessive. Overacting.
Yeah,
I don't... If I've done my homework,
obvious.
it's not even a factor. And that's why I think you said it's more of just a...
There's a natural...
And the professionalism is to do my work so that is no longer an element.
Yeah, well, right on. I think that's probably because I think you're born to be doing this, as I said, and I think it's also, without question, you've been on a lot of sets. You've been working, for over 20 years. I mean, you're doing
almost 2001.
That's right. Like you're doing really incredible work there. Do you think that back to that question, which every actor loves to talk about, is when you don't get a part, emotion and transfer of emotion and storytelling as an actor is so important. That how do you handle not getting a part?
Tears. No,
it's okay to cry on this show.
Okay.
Yeah. How does that? I mean, are you? I think there's two schools: the actors who are devastated because they put everything into the prep and they want it, and the others are like, it's a job, you move on real quick.
I think I'm a little bit. Yeah, a little. I mean, those are two very. Yeah, it's on that continuum. I favor it's a job, move on, let it. Because again, my job is to put my best foot forward, throw my hat in the ring in the best possible way I can. So and I keep saying this and I don't want to, but if I've done my homework and I'm prepped and I'm ready, and I put my best foot forward, I go in the room and I leave it all in that room, there's nothing more I can do. So I'm not going to be devastated because I can't do any more than what I've done. And there's a million reasons why you won't get a job. Too tall, too short, don't like your hair, you remind me of my ex-husband. I don't like the clothes you wore that day. Like, whatever it is, there's a bazillion reasons. There's only one that you're going to get it because the decision maker says him. Right.
But that to me is a really... That only happens in your line of work. Like, I don't go to work every day and potentially not get the job.
Every morning.
Right?
Still you.
It's today the day. Although, you never know. I feel like... you're a pro volleyball player, so winning, losing, I get that. You're an athlete. I know you think about that too. But that is a lot of, there's likely more rejection than getting the part.
Unbelievably so.
And you still, for almost 20 years, have doing that. What's driving you? Why do you do that?
The love of storytelling. The euphoric state that comes from being able to tell a story and drop into those moments, that universal truth, sadness, anger, joy, any of those storytelling moments where I get to connect. Like right now, I love it because we're having a conversation and there's amazing people in this room, but I'm just talking to you. I love this presence, this being brought to the present to be in this moment. Yeah. And then it goes moment to moment to moment. And there's a euphoric element to that. It's intoxicating to me. So I'm not saying I'm a drug addict, but it's But there's like a drug aspect to it.
Sure. It's a high from that feeling.
Absolutely.
Oh, I get that.
And it draws me to it to enough that when I go into a room, if I've done everything I can to potentially earn that part and I don't get it, it's not personal. And that's a growth. When I started out, I'm like, is it me? What did I, what am I not doing? Why am I, what do I have to do? Oh, all the different things. Oh, they're idiots. I'm an idiot. I'm insecure. Like it was all over the map starting out. And then you shape it down to like, I do the best I can with the work that I learn and I go to school and I educate myself to be the best possible asset commodity I can for this project. And when I get the breakdowns that fit, I'm going to go in with that full training and go. And then get it or not.
What do you think of, like, because I can imagine an actor, there are many like you that I think love that performance, that storytelling, the stage, whatever, the audience, whether they're there or they're watching the finished product. I get that. I hate it, for example. I don't, like, I would switch seats with Dylan in a second if I knew he would do the same amount of prep that I do. I would absolutely prefer to be behind the camera. So I know it's not a draw to me that way. Like, I know that.
No offense.
So what do you say to a young actor or an upstart potential actor who says, I think I want to be an actor, but I don't know?
I think, there's not many that say I think.
Okay.
Because if by the time I get to talk to them, they've either heard of the fact
Well, they might love acting, but they're trying to decide, like, is this my hobby or do I want to do this for a living maybe? Like, have you ever encountered that question? Yeah. And how do you guide someone as an experienced working actor?
So on that think level, I say take a class and learn what it's going to take to get to the point where you can be rejected. Funny enough, the amount of work that you need to do for each of those rejections is pretty colossal. The preparation, the classes, the learning, and the experience of being rejected is huge. And you have to know that you love it enough to go through all of those elements to keep coming back after getting knocked down. Mm-hmm. And my brother and I, before, when it was about sports and just life, not acting, we would say and it's not that we invented this, but our motto was to get up one more time than you're knocked down. Always. That's how you succeed. And acting, you get knocked down a lot. By that I mean rejected. Yeah. You didn't get the part this time. Well, I'm going to come back. The next time there's a breakdown and you say I get to come and audition, that's a gift, and I'm going to take that opportunity to go in and crush it. And I'm going to leave it all in the room, and then I'm going to walk out and I'm going to flush it. It's gone. And either wardrobe calls me or I get another audition type thing.
That's a great attitude. I think.
Well, there's a mental health element to it too, because if I don't do that, and there's good years and there's bad years.
Sure.
And on it's funny because you have financially, you do well in a year, but you only do 2 or 3 projects. And my creative soul, like my dad and husband,
the part
parts,
of you,
those feel great.
Yeah.
I'm providing, I'm being a dad, and I'm good, and I get to spend a lot of time with my kids. But the creative soul is suffering because I've only been able to do that euphoric gift thing that I love to do a limited number of times compared to years past. So the insecurity starts to creep back in.
Talking to Dan Payne, he's an actor, a stunt professional, a performance actor, an all-around incredible working actor, here with me live in Vancouver. You've got 2 boys.
I do.
Both of them say, Dad, we want to be actors too. What would you say? That's
the only way it's going to be brought up, just to start. I will never ask them if they want to act. I want them to, if they ever come to me and say, Dad, I want to be an actor, I'm like, great.
Knowing what you know about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I love it. If you have to try it to know.
Yeah.
So if you have an inspiration or some aspect of you is calling to it, mm-hmm. I say go find out.
Sure.
So if my kids come to me, and that's the only way it's going to come up, if they come to me and say, Dad, I think I want to do what you do. I'm like, the dishes and laundry? I'm just kidding.
You do that?
I do that. Right, honey?
Yeah.
I want to do it. I want to be an actor. I'll be like, awesome. I teach a class, and next time you're taking the class.
Yeah.
Take the class and find out what it takes and see if you still want to. And I'd have to obviously adjust it. They're pretty young. But I want you to understand what it's going to take, because it isn't just to show up and say words in front of a camera, which I think at 10 and 8 they might not fully recognize the amount of...
I think you're absolutely right. And on that point, I want to call it again too. You are the Beast in seasons 1, 2, and now season 3 of Disney's The Descendants. Huge show. Really tragic what happened to Cameron Boyce. I'm so sorry to hear that. May he rest in peace. What was he like? He was a young star that I think a lot of people thought he was just going to the moon.
You know how you just sometimes you can't understand why him? It just he he was that beautiful kid.
Yeah.
He was, oh my God. Yeah, just getting emotional for some reason, but just a gentle soul, like he really, he's such a good kid. Like he
You
was
got
a
me
good
choked
kid.
up. You see a lot of young actors, in particular, now doing some of these Disney projects and on set. What is your take on? I mean, you and I to frame this up, you and I have had some conversations offline about this, so I know a little bit about some of the things. But when these kids get to that Disney level, and when they're getting to like Hannah Montana world, what are you seeing on set? And are you worried? I mean, I hear stories about just this. For some of these kids, I hear
They miss their youth.
Yeah, or they're 14, 15, and you think, it's just kind of a cliche with Hollywood. But you've seen some interesting things, and I'm just curious if, the business, if we're doing enough to protect and ensure that some of these young kids who see this really big stardom. By the way, not suggesting Cameron Boyce was the victim of anything.
So
like that.
I think I can finally talk about him. His parents are, I think the parent core of any kid who gets into acting has to be strong.
Yeah.
The values that they impart on their child has the biggest influence.
Yeah.
And Cameron's parents, I met them, they're phenomenal. He and his dad were like father, son, and best friends. A beautiful balance of that.
Mm-hmm.
And Cameron was so, I mean, he could sing, dance like nobody else.
Yeah, he was really multifaceted.
Act like, he was genuine.
Yeah, people say he was like a Justin Timberlake kind of thing. Like you knew this kid was just going to go and do incredible stuff.
He could do no wrong because of his innate, unbelievably God-given or whatever talent.
And was Disney falling all over him and the other? You've got some really young. I mean, the Descendants. For I've got a whole core of audience who probably don't know that show. They're not in that age bracket.
Right.
But for millennials and below, and the teens and tweens, this is a huge show. And you're seeing some of these kids. I'm going to call them kids. Teens.
Yeah. Well, they are to me.
Yeah, for sure. They're making big money fast. Are you know?
And they're in the public eye to an extent.
Yeah, their Instagram is getting millions. They're catalog or photographing and cataloging their life for everyone on social. You're going, holy shit! This is this maybe wasn't the lifestyle that Doogie Howser had. Maybe
and they
maybe
grew
not.
up in it. With my kids, same thing. They're growing up in this digital world, so it's less. But as an older gentleman.
Did you call yourself an older gentleman?
Older gentleman. Oh God.
Yeah.
My cane is right over there.
Yeah.
Sad. They grew up in this world, so it's maybe not as intimidating. But for me to look from generation to a generation, it's imposing. But they've grown up in it, so they navigate it with ease. Not to say that it is a good or a bad influence. But Cameron's a philanthropist. He was sadly a philanthropist. He did this thirst campaign to bring fresh drinking water to those who didn't have it. He literally was using, and this sounds like a Spider-Man thing, using his powers for good, right? Like with great power comes great responsibility. So
that's great to hear.
He was. And they created the Cameron Boyce Foundation on the back of his passing to continue his unbelievable want for the world to be better. He did a speech where basically, I don't remember exactly, but it was be the change you want to see in the world.
See, I love that, right? And Lindsay Lohan never did that.
No, and that's Cameron Boyce, and that's why I always that's why it kind of strikes you.
Yeah, he was special.
It strikes
I'm
you
so
a little
sorry,
bit harder.
man. He was such a special kid, and
he really was.
I think that you've got sort of a unique perspective on that because that Disney machine. I mean, you go from Hannah Montana to Miley Cyrus, and it's like it's become the junior league for eventual Hollywood star. It always has been, but going back to the Mickey Mouse Club, right? That's not unusual. But I do wonder sometimes if the social media is making it worse because of the massive size of the audience, and if these kids, there's not enough of those Camerons, I think is my point.
Exactly, and this on the other side of that, social media can make it better. Like, are they just doing it because it gets followers or makes them look good in the public eye? No, Cameron was doing it because that's what he felt was right. Like he's a good kid in that he was like, I'm going to see if whatever I've been given these opportunities and gifts, can I not manipulate? That's not the right word. Can I help these
Leverage it, take
manifest and
advantage of
leverage
it.
them to make a good change in the world?
Yeah.
And not that I'm not saying that, like Dove, Sophia, Boo Boo, all those guys, they do great things. That was more of a focus for Cameron.
Are they good kids? Are they?
They are.
You like that? They're you don't have any horror stories, no nightmares. They're good.
No divas.
Not that you'd say it on.
No, I wouldn't.
show,
But there was no diva-esque element.
Yeah.
To it, not at all.
That's great.
And I think again it comes from the parent core and the fact that these kids were well adjusted, even though they grew up in the public eye. And I don't know how they balance 2 million followers, putting their entire life on Instagram. Can't really go anywhere. It's imposing. Like it. I don't get it. I fully don't understand, but they manage it brilliantly, and they haven't been swayed. I mean, Dove is really in the mix,
and she plays
Mal.
The young Maleficent.
Maleficent. Yeah.
Yes, or not the young, the offspring.
Yes.
To get that, it's important to get that right.
So she's great with the social media and the.
Yeah,
and the,
she's active.
Oh, and brilliant at it.
But she's probably got a team helping her with it.
I would hope so, because I don't know how else you get it done.
Yeah.
Look at The Rock. Are there only one of him?
Of Dwayne Johnson?
Is there only one? Because I feel like there's clones of him out there. Because how do you get all that content?
That guy's incredible.
He's unbelievable.
He's insane.
And he's still a great guy. When you think of him, you don't go, oh, what a D-bag. You go, that guy's a legend, a good guy.
Who's the best person you've ever? Who is your favorite person you've ever got to work with in the last 20 years?
Oh man,
Nicolette Sheridan.
She was a powerhouse.
Yeah, she was a big deal. She married Michael Bolton twice. I'm pretty sure that's true.
We can fact check it.
I think she did marry him twice. I'm not even going to have Dylan check. I'm gonna
go with that.
I'm going to leave that in there. She married him twice.
She's a powerhouse. She knows what she wants. She knows
Real
what
Housewives
it takes to get there. Just
of the first, what was that called?
Desperate Housewives.
Desperate Housewives. And then, of course, in the 80s, she was an icon and
still stunningly beautiful, too.
Absolutely. She's my favorite person you've worked with.
Is that right?
Yes. And I like the Hallmark movie that you did. I thought, was it Hallmark? It felt like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. All Yours with
yes.
Nicolette Sheridan, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if you guys were going to make it there in the end, even though I know that always does happen.
So Jennie Garth, who I got to do A Time to Dance, a Hallmark movie.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. 90210.
She was phenomenal to work with because she was so present when she would joke about how she doesn't want to do this anymore, and she does it for the lifestyle that she has to keep going. She jokes about not wanting to do it, but she's so unbelievable at it. Whenever the camera rolled, I told you about that whole, I can look into somebody's eyes, like the euphoric state is to look into another actor's eyes who's present in there, fall into it, and then the story happens.
Yeah.
You're telling the story.
And
that's all
it's happening.
And you're there.
Oh, that's great. With her.
100%.
Awesome.
100%. And we were going through a divorce that we had to manage and then get back. And it was so fun to tell that story with her because she was so unbelievably present. You think, 90210, and she was phenomenal.
I love hearing stories like that, especially when it maybe plays against what you might think. I think
right.
I think that's terrific. Have you ever remember when Christian Bale had the meltdown on set?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a meltdown, or have you in 20 years? You have logged some hours on set.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever just lost it or been not at your best? Because sometimes you're shooting for you're doing 20-hour days sometimes.
Yeah, everyone's in the same boat, so there's a conscious awareness of the fact that we're all tired and we're all doing massive hours. But I have had.
And I also know you have a short fuse when you're driving, so I just asked that because I wonder. I wonder, have you ever lost it on set, or do you how do you deal with that work environment?
That's professionalism, though. It's strange how you're right. I'm not great behind the wheel with.
No, I think you're a great driver. I'm just saying,
thank you,
when
but
other people aren't, you don't like that.
But I need to find the zen, because the same way that I can just go, we're all in this together. Johnny Cutoff is just doing his best to get where he needs to go. If I could just recognize that they're not purposely trying to ruin my day or cause me any grief or kill me by cutting me off, I could probably just go,
It's just professionalism.
It's professionalism. So on set, if I'm exhausted, so is the guy who's not getting me my prop reset in time for the camera to roll, and I don't want to look like the clown who's not ready to go because the prop guy did. I'm not going to yell at the prop guy going, hey, meathead, reload my gun and get it the heck over here where I need to get it when the scene starts, because I don't want the director yelling at me because you can't do your damn job.
I know. But I remember that happened. I felt for him.
That never happened, by the way.
I felt, I remember thinking, you know what? Maybe it sucks if you were the guy who you yelled at, but as an actor, talk about, and you know this better than me. You got to do all this work to get ready for the scene or stay in that character for however long that is. It's like you're an engine. You're being revved.
Yes.
And every time something goes wrong, you have to turn it off and you got to kick the starter in again. And I would think that was probably the most impulsive, non-instinctual thing he did, because it wasn't Christian Bale. It was whatever character he was.
Totally.
It was probably yelling at him.
Again, we're assumptions
Right?
and speculating,
That would
but
be hard.
I think that's pretty bang on. My biggest, I don't know what the word is, like when you hear this, you're like, oh, is when you're doing a scene and you feel at the end of it, this lightning in a bottle, stars lined up. You're just like, yes, nailed it.
Yeah.
Don't know what it looks like. Like, honestly, when I do that, it's because internally it felt, I was there with you and that I felt 100% present in that moment.
You're like, that was the one.
Oh, if I were to direct this or edit it, that's the one.
Yeah.
And they go, focus, Buzz, we got to go again. Right? Yeah, you're like,
That's what I mean.
But there's a human aspect, and I know that my job, so that focus guy doesn't go, I mean, they're amazing. 99% of the time, like, sorry. But I don't go, that was the one, you jackass. I don't lose it at him. He's doing the best he can. He's human. I have to bring it again. That's my job. I have to find a way to bring it again. So that
takes like energy. That's
especially
not like,
if I let myself think, yes, I nailed. That was the one. Right? And then we're going again. What?
Talk to me about any new projects you're working on. What does the working actor do when they're not working? How do you try to keep, emotionally, mentally, physically? Is there a routine you have for all those aspiring actors out there that are watching and listening? There's lots of downtime in between all these great parts you've had. What's your program? How do you manage that?
Well, I'm a dad, so there's a lot of busy dad time. But when I have my time to do job, career-related stuff, I write, because the dream, I think, for me would be to be able to create content that I want to do for me. The whole Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, how do you like them apples?
Yeah, right.
I try to collaborate with other like-minded people that I would want to work with. As I get older, I want to produce so that I can, again, be in more control of my creative path.
Right on.
The learning curve of that is colossal. I'm an infant. I'm an ignorant infant in the world of producing. So I have content. I've been handed a couple of projects. I've been a part of creating a couple of projects that we feel could be greenlit yesterday. But
you're learning it. You're trying to. But I love that about you. You're very humble in that respect, and you are always trying to learn something wherever you can. I think that's why you continue to be successful, buddy.
Thanks, man.
I love. Will you come on and do the show again sometime? I could talk to you, and I could talk to like a working actor of your caliber with your experience. Is such an insight to a lot of the students here and to a lot of the people who watch and learn the show. And I really appreciate how candid you are about it. Will you come do the show again?
Anytime.
That would be killer. I'm talking with Dan Payne, an actor, a longtime working actor who's done some incredible stuff. Check out his IMDB page. He just joined the Century Club. I'm so proud of you, Dan.
No, I just want to say it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you very much, Christopher.
Hey, no problem. Come again. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.